I prefer almost exclusively Weapon Grumpjaw over CP Grumpjaw because of his damage potential and the plays he can make. Baron Grumpjaw, typical ban, typical actually vanilla draft here with Grace being first pick.
This is how it started in game 1 too, though.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, they have the potential for a full
they're
heal
gonna take the Baptiste here now.
Yeah, so this is an interesting first pick. We don't usually see Baptiste this early on in the draft.
Yeah, normally they secure it first because they can flex him as a captain or as a jungler. So he is very flexible and it's a great first pick, I feel, for a lot of compositions. So I think Blackfeather may be banned here potentially, or maybe Fnatic may want to play the Blackfeather because Techno is very good on BF. Because again, Blackfeather is probably one of the best counters against Baptiste because of his mobility and his range once he's level 8.
I also really like the Baptiste pick because we know it can be played as a captain, and so we've seen so much emphasis on the Arden of late that now if, let's say, G2 bans away the Arden, they can just say, okay, we'll just run the Baptiste as a captain instead. And it is going to be the Scarf ban, so now Fnatic, maybe they do want to go for the Arden and run the Baptiste in the jungle. That first pick just gives them options, and I really like that.
Palmatari getting a respect ban here.
Yeah, that's a huge respect ban. I think maybe Samuel might be a good pick here if they're going to run a Captain Baptiste. No, they're going to actually pick the Arden like Bacon said. So that's going to be a jungle Baptiste here. Which is interesting because against a Grace, he's going to lose if it's like a really aggressive jungler. But they're going to actually jungle the Grace and do a CP Celeste. Okay, so this is a very interesting draft here. Based on Fnatic last pick, we'll see how this goes.
What were we expecting coming in, really? G2, they've had 2 weird drafts coming in. They have to round it out with a third off-the-wall meta as well.
Yeah, but Finn and Celeste do work well into Baptiste, and even Grace actually too, because they can stand their ground and fight him. And Celeste completely outranges him once she's level 8, and that counters Baptiste as the range game. So Fnatic needs to pick something that they can dive onto Celeste potentially here. Maybe a Weapon Glaive, a Weapon Blackfeather would be good here. Let's see what they decide, because Techno and Blackfeather is actually really, really good.
A lot of options available to them. Is Fnatic looking to round out this composition? What are we feeling, Bacon?
I feel like they need just something that can soak up some burst. That's I mean, obviously Arden can do that. Blackfeather is going to be a great pick for it. Have sustain, can dodge out a lot of the burst, and can dive onto the backline, get onto that Celeste. That was going to be one of their big struggles if they didn't pick something like the Blackfeather or some other assassin. And the Blackfeather, I think, is going to be able to deal with that quite well.
All right, well, let's have a look at these comps as a whole then. Once again, G2 falling back onto this weapon power Grace that we've seen them. It didn't work in the first game. It didn't work when we've seen it before.
0 for 2 win rate, Weapon Grace.
Yeah, it's
not graceful with the wins.
Are we not convinced? Like, what do we think about this G2 draft? No,
I'm not convinced on Weapon Grace whatsoever. I've yet to see, and like it has a strong early game, sure. It has a strong A ability, sure, but that's it. That's all it has. That's all it brings to the table.
Or it could be a CP Stormcrown Grace, CP Grace. And then they just super farm a Hundor and just get him to his late game power build extremely fast in Celeste. That could work too. They have done that before with Baron.
I was going to say late game Hundor is not exactly the first time we've heard that sentence. How are we feeling about the draft then? I want to go predictions as it's 1-1.
I really like Blackfeather into Celeste. He's an assassin and he counters Celeste really well. If she's going to be ulting, he can just He can just ult past it and dodge Celeste ultimate. So I think Fnatic, if they play properly, can win against G2 here.
Okay. Fnatic should be able to take this because I assume it's still going to be a Weapon Grace, and just the composition that Fnatic has will play really well at being able to survive that initial burst damage that comes out from Grace and Celeste, and should be able to not even really worry about the Finn at all.
All right, so we have a Fnatic desk here then. I've got to say, I kind of want G2 just to work with the innovative compositions. I want the cool stuff to happen. Whether it'll happen or not, we'll have to wait and see as we get on into the game as well. Don't forget as well to get involved in the conversation using that hashtag Vainglory on social media. Are you a G2 fan or are you a Fnatic fan? We want to know. Let us know on Twitter. But with that, it's time to get on into this third game of the semi-final between G2 and Fnatic.
Thank you very much, guys. Over on the desk, my name is George, joined by AJ for this third game in this best of 3 versus Fnatic and G2. Now, Dark Potato, he's picked up that Grace once again, going this weapon power build, but we're seeing that Celeste in lane from Hundor this time.
This is an interesting pickup, actually, because we have not seen a lot of Celeste recently. It is something, like Suijay said, that can work nicely into a Baptiste, so long as you don't get blitzed by the Fearsome Shade, right? That can be really crushing, because it is very long range, it can disable you, and then you're not able to really do much. But Hundor, this is a player that I expect to be able to reflex block something like that, especially when there's a large lead time on the ability because you're playing from so far away anyway. Net Toilette going quite aggressive early on here. We see this a lot. Whichever team has a stronger jungle duo tends to send their captain in, try and get them to mess with the opponent a little bit.
Speaking of messing, he's just standing in front of him recalling, AJ. That's my favourite form of BM. Dark Potato, though, is going to be able to secure that healing camp without too much of a problem with dealing with Net Toilette. Palmatoro, though, on this Baptiste, and like you said, the more stronger, elegant duo in the early game will always get secure this or control.
Did you say the more stronger, eloquent duo?
Yeah, eloquent. Yeah.
Okay.
They're looking pretty eloquent.
I can kind of dig it.
Got a dictionary next to me.
Let's talk about some of this other stuff going on here. We got Blackfeather in the lane up against a Celeste. Now, Blackfeather, this is someone who can sustain very effectively, and also on point means that you can trade pretty nicely with Hundor. Whenever he goes for the Heliogenesis, it's going to be pretty difficult to get damage to stick because of on point. You know, you're locking yourself into an animation. Makes it very easy for Tetno to land the shielding portion of the ability. Then you don't actually deal damage to him. This should mean that up until around level 8, Tetno feels pretty good in lane and can maybe even start rotating and helping another team. If not for the fact that Grace is just so good at pressuring early on, I do think that Tetno might end up being at a deficit not because of the lane matchup, but because of the matchup as a whole. Once we hit level 6, though, this is definitely a good pick into the comp that G2 is running. The fact that Blackfeather can avoid a lot of the crowd control that G2 has to offer, and you got to remember G2 has crowd control on every single member of their lineup, is going to allow him to stick damage much more easily and be so threatening that he forces a reaction and buys space for Palmatoro.
And the big thing is about his build and his kit as well. He's going to have a lot of sustain, so he's going to be able to at least survive when he hits that back line of G2. Oh dear, Keanu in a lot of trouble there. He's going to use that polite company, though, to get that fortified health. He's going to have to just recall now as Fnatic. The pedal to the metal, and they are going to force Hundor underneath this turret. And that's one important factor about Hundor. Does use a lot of these weapon scaling or CP scaling carries in the form of this build Celeste, which do take a while to get online. Tenno, arguably not so much, and with Palmatoro's ability to CC as well, not so much either. So Hundor's going to have to be more than safe and play safe. But when it gets to the late game, it's going to be very hard, you can imagine, for Tetno to stick that damage if Keanu and Dark Potato are just sitting on top of Hundor.
These teams do have some very interesting stylistic differences, Jaws. I think that's a good point to make. Tetno is not really the hard carry on Fnatic, even though he plays from lane. I would definitely say that Palmatoro consistently is the hard carry for that team, whereas Hundor almost certainly the hard carry for G2. Now, one thing that's worth noting is that Fnatic is playing in such a way to really mess up G2's plan, I think, and I believe Suijay mentioned this. He was talking about the fact that Hundor might try and hyper-farm this game. Grace does not need that many items to be effective. A lot of her kit comes from her abilities and just having levels in those, whereas Hundor needs levels and gold. So if you're able to rotate him down and take jungle camps, then back up to the lane, take the wave, you might as well do that, so long as you can at least get Dark Potato to 1 or 2 items fairly fast, which with this early tension bow you can see they have been able to do. But Fnatic is constantly shoving lane by putting multiple members in the lane. That's making it hard for Hundor to leave and not actually lose something in the process.
Definitely good game plan, you could say, then, from Fnatic, making sure Hundor is feeling the burn of Fnatic's pressure. And now Fnatic, what do they need to do apart from just pressure Hundor out? Because we have this such strong and competent duo as Palmatoro and Net Toilette on Baptiste and this Arden. Very, very good in the jungle, can disrupt Dark Potato a fair bit as well. And the amount of CC that they do have, they can take control and get a lot of vision down. You can see Palmatoro now clearing a little bit of that out as Fnatic actually get aggressed on as soon as he gets spotted on that scout trap, but they know better to back off because Palmatoro could have been in the wings. Has hit that level 6 mark as well, just to reiterate the amount of CC he does have. It does have Fearsome Shade now available to him.
So Fnatic, what they really need to do is try and find team fights around Goldmine if they want to team fight. If they want to just pressure the turret, they have that option. Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go indeed. Oh God. That ended before it even started. Hundor didn't stand a chance against Net2alette and Techno diving. And Palmatoro comes in there as well for the cheeky assist. Fnatic already put that pedal to the metal. They focus the right person. It's going to be Hundor.
Yeah, smart play there, going for the initiation before Hundor actually gets to the point where, you know, he has higher range at level 8. This means that you know he's going to have to be kind of close to the wave in order to kill it with Helios. That gives you a big opening to go in with Palmatoro. Also, prior to Reflex Block being built, it's really dirty how easy it is for Batiste to land Chain CC. You Ordained and you Fearsome Shade them into the wall. And you're pretty much guaranteed to land that every single time. Now that Batiste has a Shatterglass too, don't be surprised if we see Fnatic trying to pressure the lane even more with some poke damage. They certainly have that option right now.
And with Techno hitting that level 6 as well, that Rose offensive, he's just going to be on top of Hundor consistently. He's got that Poison Shiv as well to get rid of some of that healing that's going to come out from Dark Potato later on. Now Palmatoro rotating down towards that Gold Miner. Won't find all too much, but at least he knows where Dark Potato is. It's going to be a slower game, I think, here, AJ. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be explosive
Slower
when
than
the fights
27
happen.
minutes we had last game. Are you sure, Jaws?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Slow right now, at least. You have to give me that one, at least. Mojo
Slow
being blown out all the place, though.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, slow pace, yeah.
Well, I can certainly see where you're coming from. There's a very durable lineup in G2, and Fnatic are the ones who really want to be applying pressure in the mid game. Celeste hits her spike a little bit later on. Dark Potato, on the other hand, does want to be doing things early, but that is a bit of a dissonance, actually, I think, in what G2's picked up, because Dark Potato going weapon power, the strength of that pick is in the early game. If Dark Potato decided, for example, to go more of a proc build, then maybe you can make the argument for a later game thing. Oh, trying to steal that away, does not find it. If he was going Crystal Power, that does more in the late game. But straight Weapon Grace is not really a late game pick, whereas the Celeste definitely is. So I think that Dark Potato is here to buy time for her. Whether or not that's going to be as efficient as it could be in the late game, though, I don't think it will be. Like, I think that Dark Potato is going to struggle to be effective once we hit, like, the 14-minute mark.
Ooh, Techno taking a fair bit of damage from that tension bow, but they look like they want to go for a little re-engage, but Hundor with that core collapse just threatens Fnatic a little bit too much, and they decide to turn around and run away. Now just pushing again once more. Hundor's just so scary at this point with that Frostburn as well. When he does overload that Heliogenesis in the next level, it's going to be very scary. Nice Ordained and a bad Mojo to get a little bit of damage down, but Dark Potato is going to struggle off, so is Hundor. They got Keanu there as well to kind of facilitate that disengagement. And now Fnatic trying to get some of G2's jungle.
G2, I mean, they're doing a good job of staying quite healthy and not getting jumped on. They tried, when they were able to do it safely, to contest the gold mine. I think that's smart. But now that Hundor is level 8, I would like to see G2 be a little bit more aggressive. They have kind of a miniature power spike here where suddenly they're higher range. They've got a Frostburn on Hundor. They have a Tension Bow on Dark Potato. They can be a little bit pressuring on the turret so long as they keep vision in the mustache bush on Fnatic's side. But then maybe like 2 minutes from now, just stop again and wait until you're fully late game.
Well, game number 2, we saw G2 about 2k gold lead at about the 11-minute mark. We are approaching that very shortly, and they also had 2 kills around that time as well. This composition, definitely the slower of the scaling, slower of the two in terms of scaling, but Dark Potato's got a Tension Bow and the Poison Shiv on him. So if they want to fight, they can fight now, because Hundor does have that overload.
Oh,
hang on a second, though. They go for an engagement. Hundor's in a little trouble. Fearsome Shade onto 3 people. Hundor's getting chased down, but that massive heal. Divine Intervention is going to save him underneath his own. Forced to Cord as well was huge from Keanu. Here comes Net2alette, though. He needs to be able to escape alive. Fnatic, with this sustain from Techno and Net2alette, were able to survive that, what looked like to be a disastrous engagement.
You know, if Hundor had landed most of his skill shots in that fight, G2 probably would have gotten a couple of kills. That was honestly a really solid disengage and then re-engage from G2, but they did not connect with a lot of abilities. Dark Potato probably does not want to go in right now. That'd be a bit bold for my liking. But we do have Hundor on his way back here. Fnatic needs to not overstay.
Well, they could try something. Potato gets ordained though. He's going to get stunned. There goes the bad mojo.
Wow.
Actually almost executing him. Woo, 426 damage. There we go. Shatter Glass on the Batiste.
Yeah, that's doing a lot of damage right now. You can see that Fnatic actually want to go back in onto Hundor here.
Oh, yes, they do. Hundor peeks his head out, and he just gets dumped on. Tenno is going to be able to find a kill. That Fearsome Shade just rattling through the members of G2. Dubtail is going to heal Keanu up, but Fnatic finding that kill is going to be pretty big for them.
Yeah, that was a really nice play by Fnatic. They're managing to edge out small leads in the early game, which you would hope that they could do with their composition. As things get closer towards the mid-game, they're going to have to start worrying about 2 items, 3 items on Hundor, who now has that 2-item spike. In addition to also, Crucible just being picked up by Keanu. That's actually a really important item against a Batiste, so keep your eyes peeled for how Keanu is able to facilitate these re-engages and disengages for the side of G2. They're starting to get to that point where they definitely can contest. Fnatic had a huge lead up until this point, but the Crucible is huge.
Crucible is really big. That stops a lot of the engagement from Keanu if it is popped accordingly. But I mean, Tenno has got the Aegis, and we do have a Reflex Block on Palmatora as well, so they've got that in their own kit. Now, it is time. It's time for Hundor to just poke at range, and there's nothing Fnatic can do about it unless they fully engage. Look at that damage from the Heliogenesis. Almost goes down, in fact, but Fnatic just forcing something here. Gauntlet is going to come down. It's only going to stun at 1. Dubtet is caught in that Ordained as well. Big silence onto Keanu to make sure he couldn't use that Forced Accord. Now Fnatic just playing this rather slowly now. That is a massive cooldown for Ned Toilet used.
Hundor does not yet have an Eve, and as a result, the energy regeneration is nowhere near good enough to fight a lot of these more extended initiations. I'm actually surprised Keanu went for a hook there, because Hundor can't follow. That probably would not have worked out very well for the side of G2. But they are just trying to stay in this one, try and keep defending the turret. If Fnatic get on top of it here, they can definitely take it down.
And they can. Hundor is backing, and they know Keanu is backing as well, or at least he wants to, looking at judging on his HP.
Yeah, there's the Eve pickup for Hundor. This is what he needs to really start spiking here. I think it's hit a point where Hundor definitely wants to fight now. G2, they can start really trying to put the pressure onto Fnatic as opposed to just reacting or looking for opportunistic windows.
That would definitely seem it. Ordain does come down to Hundor. He's just staying in the middle of it though. There comes the Quibble onto 3 people. The stun, the fear that everything is just bundled onto Hundor. He ends up falling, but now it's Tenno, JJ, and Netwell's time to shine. Dark Potato is just getting kited away, and Tenno makes a mean work of Keanu. And now Dubtail really can't find much when he hasn't got vision to net. Toilet, he's going to go down. That's going to be an ace for Fnatic, and they're going to push for this tier 2 turret.
So when I said I wanted them to, or they wanted to fight, there was a clarification point needed, which is that they needed to at least heal up Keanu and Dark Potato first, and probably not fight around that turret, which was so nearly dead anyway. Like, why not leverage an objective that can actually do something, or, you know, put yourself in a position where you actually can abuse Hundor's range. Hundor was just standing on the turret, even though the turret was nearly dead. That's not going to work, because Fnatic could just pile onto you quite easily in that position. Plus, going for the stun that Hundor went for isn't going to do anything against Techno JJ if his reactions are on point, because you can just use Rose Offensive to get onto Hundor after he throws out the core collapse. Ultimately, whilst I think that was a timing that worked for G2, it was not very well executed, and they really needed to have Keanu and Dark Potato ready to fight as well as Hundor.
Communication and coordination there, AJ. That's what it all comes down to. That gold miner is going to get taken by Fnatic, you can imagine, but they're going to want to go for this engage. That gauntlet is available for Netwellette whenever he wants to use it. There's some shed as well. Quibble onto 2 people, but Fnatic, they secure the gold mine. Forced Accord is sent out by Keanu. Is going to get blocked by that Crucible. So, big win here for Fnatic. They have got 5k in the bank over G2, and now G2 on the run.
Yeah, G2, they were able to get some nice poke damage down there, but it wasn't really enough, considering that Fnatic does have some sustain on Palmatoro and Tetno, in addition to Net's perk, actually. Anyone who gets focused here on Fnatic needs to die in that same fight. Oh, bad reflex block!
Oh my goodness, that was a bad misposition from Hundor. He ends up going down. Dark Potato is soon to follow. Gauntlet is going to strike him down. Ordained to just make sure he's enclosed in that gauntlet even further. Tenno JJ finds his 5th kill of the game, and Fnatic are coming up big against G2. They're going to take that turret. There you go. Take it. There you go. You got it. And you can imagine they're going to go towards the Kraken now.
I can't help but be reminded of Hundor's Celeste from spring season and even further back than that. It's always been a pick that he sometimes goes to, and it feels kind of weird to me, and he never has really executed on it. He's always been much stronger on the weapon carries in lane. This is just not working. He's not reflex blocking on time. I guess it doesn't matter what hero you're playing to reflex block on time, but it lines up. He wasn't able to reflex block properly there, even though he had it off cooldown. On top of that, his positioning in fights has not been the best. His use of his core collapse has not been the best. I feel like Hundor is just not a player who excels when they have to play defensively. He'd much rather just kind of go in, which is the style he plays with Baron, for example. It's starting to bite G2 in the butt, because consistently, if you were to look at his stats on this hero, it just has not panned.
Well, now Fnatic are just marching down down the lane. Hundor's come online though. We can't ignore that fact. He has got Broken Myth. He's sitting on 3 items now. So he can do an absolute boatload of damage if he doesn't miss position. Nettoilette has got that gauntlet. That Kraken's going to be marching on those turrets. Core collapse on Palmatoro. We'll just dodge it out. But Hundor has got the ability now to just zone out of Fnatic. You can see them getting chunked out a fair bit by this Heliogenesis. They just haven't got a lot of damage to take down this Kraken quickly. It's going to at least take one of those turrets. Fearsome Shade is going to get blocked. That turret will end up falling. Fnatic maybe looking for the retreat here, or possibly doing something else. Forced to bring them back in, but again, it is going to get blocked by that Crucible.
So different team compositions utilize Kraken pushes in different ways. What Fnatic does with a Kraken push is kind of sits there and says, if you want to kill Kraken, we're going to poke you. If you want to fight us, Kraken's going to kill your turrets. Whereas if you were to look at like G2's composition, if they weren't pushing with Kraken, they'd probably be a lot more aggressive. They could probably afford to be. G2, after 1 or 2 mistakes consecutively, are now severely on the back foot. Fnatic, they faltered a little bit in game number 2, but they look very good here. I'm worried for G2's ability to come back into this game. It's really going to rely on Hundor having good positioning in these fights.
What it comes down to, he's the main source of damage right now. You'd have thought. I mean, Dark Potato hasn't built all too tanky. He has got the Aegis, has got the Atlas Pauldron, but he's not doing a lot of damage either. He's only got Poison Shiv and the Tension Bow, so he's really not doing all too much. I mean, he goes in for the initial burst damage, and then he is going to be there for the Holy Nova, for that Divine Intervention, and it's going to be Hundor making sure he can get the damage proficient enough to kind of take Fnatic low, and then they can turn the fights around. But 2 major carries on the side of Fnatic in Tetno and Palmatoro. Palmatoro has just shown up on this Batiste. His Ordains have been good, and Tetno just with that consistent form of damage as well, with that breaking point. Has even gone Slumbering Husk as well, by the way, AJ.
Yeah, I like the Slumbering Husk pickup for sure. It's definitely going to help him really stick these fights. Dark Potato, I wonder what he's really going to be doing. I think he's just got to sit on top of Hundor, try and deal damage to whoever is focusing Hundor. I'd like to see Fnatic be a little bit more decisive. I'm getting flashbacks to Game 2 here, Jaws, where they just did not decide to engage when they probably could have. Fnatic has a gauntlet. That is the ultimate we fight now ability in Vainglory. It really does set the stage for a team fight. At the very least, it makes the members of G2 burn their reflex blocks potentially, which sets up for Palmatoro to go for the Fearsome Shade. Here comes a Forced Accord, not going to land. Again, Fnatic, how many more green lights do you need to just go?
Well, I don't know, AJ. This is a pretty big green light because they're just dashing straight in. Nettoilette's going to pop those Ward Treads. Ordain comes out onto 3 people of G2, and that Fearsome Shade is going to be blocked once more. But Hundor in the back line just getting jumped on. Who's going to fall first? They're all on top of each other. Hundor is going to be the first casualty of war, and now Palmatoro is falling as well. I can't see what's going on, AJ. I'm not going to lie, but Tetno is dead, and Nettoilette using that gauntlet to encase them all in, but G2 is having none of it. Dark Potato is going to chase him down with that benediction, and Keanu is going to follow up as well. Quibble from the Force to Core. They're not going to be able to chase it up all too much, but with Hundor being down, they can't really go for this Kraken, but they can at least secure themselves a turret.
You know, I wanted Fnatic to engage there, but stacking that closely together against a Grace, whose weapon power, is a recipe for disaster. You're going to be splashing damage from your heroic perk onto everyone, every single attack. The attack speed of Grace is not that bad, especially with Poison Shiv. That was the big source of damage there, to be honest, because Hundor went pretty quickly in the fight. And Keanu, we're getting towards the late game, right? Like, Fnatic did need to be a little bit quicker, I think, in setting the pace here. We mentioned this before, but G2 really wants to play for the late game with a Celeste and a Finn. Those are both heroes that scale for that. And Grace was kind of the weird pick in the comp for that reason. It was the bridge to get to the late game. You can see that, you know, Finn especially is starting to really do work, although Hundor, again, hasn't had the best positioning in some of these fights, has been struggling a little bit to be effective.
Really, well, the thing is with Fnatic, the reason why he's having a hard time is because everybody just jumps on him. Like, you only need to target him, take him out, ignore Dark Potato for the little while, and then just delete him. And then once he's gone, then you only have to deal with Dark Potato. Keanu isn't doing a whole load of damage. Neither is Dark Potato in comparison to Hundor. I mean, I haven't really seen a big Solar Storm either. I mean, the thing is, with Fnatic just bundling on top of him, I guess it could be rather hard to aim, is my only kind of thought on that. The Sentry is going to go down, but Fnatic, they are looking to close this game out. 3k in the lead for them, but again, it can go either way. But G2 only having one turret left, and that Kraken going sharply over to Fnatic, this could just be the end.
It could indeed. The Kraken push here, very devastating if G2 doesn't do something right now. They are trying to move in and deal with the attempt here by Fnatic.
Yes, they are, but they're just going to re-engage themselves. There comes the Ordained. The Fearsome Shade is going to get blocked. That's going to be big. The Gauntlet is still... No, it's going to be down for the Net Toilette. Fountain's going to get popped from Fnatic, but they're just going to go down. Hundor has come online, forced to call to bring Keanu back in. Palmaturo falls, and there we go. Hundor finds himself 2 kills. They find themselves the ace, and the Kraken's going to come online for G2.
Kraken didn't reset that whole fight. G2 had no work to do after they managed to get the ace. There's 40 seconds on everyone, and G2 is going to be able to take 2 turrets before Kraken even hits the base. This could be game, Jaws. Big thing to note there, very different play out of Dark Potato. He did not decide to play kind of in a self-interested way where he was trying to deal the damage and find kills. He was playing exclusively for the benefit of Hundor, actually using his ultimate on him during the fight rather than weirdly having it up afterwards. This is huge. Fnatic, they need to just go. They need to just fight if they want to have any chance of winning this game.
That's exactly what they're doing. They're going to ignore that Kraken that forced the call onto 2 members of Fnatic. Will leave Tenno JJ completely isolated with Hundor and Dark Potato, but Hundor's going to fall anyway. The regen coming out from Tenno is just all too much. Fnatic are now just going to go back to their base because that Kraken and Keanu, those 2 massive hunking beasts, are just crashing down on their base. That turret's going to fall. That Crystal's going to be next. Keanu's not going down without a fight. He's going to use that polite company for the fortified HP. He ends up falling to Techno, and now they just need to kill the Kraken. They've got the ace. They could very well just end the game as soon as this is done.
Maybe, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like the respawns are that long. Plus, they still got to kill the Kraken, Jaws. 1 or 2 more attacks would do it. I'm not sure how many it actually needs. Oh that was
my
so close.
goodness.
So
Inch
close.
of HP.
I don't
That
think
turret
Fnatic
in their
can have-
base, though, isn't very healthy. It's 2/3 HP.
It's 2/3 HP, but Keanu's the only one with a long respawn here. I don't know. It's going to be really tough for Fnatic to push all the way in. They are thinking of doing it, but I don't know. Sentry, okay, yeah, Sentry is going to be the option here. Jaws, this game is very much anyone's to take at this point. A single team fight from this point onwards definitely ends things. I think that Dark Potato, now that he's got this Atlas, Aegis, and he's using heal on Hundor, has started to become useful again after being in a bit of a slump in the mid game when he just kind of had offensive items, didn't really do anything. Hundor has now got 2 defensive items of his own, plus the heal from Grace and the fortified health from Keanu Nakoa. That's enough to keep him healthy, even if he does have to stand his ground. So this is definitely, I would say G2 have the edge, but Fnatic, You've seen it in that second fight, for example. They can go in and kill Hundor if the team doesn't back him up properly.
Yeah, well, Techno can solo out Hundor, even though Dark Potato and Hundor are on him at one time. Like, that is scary. He is 8-2. He picked up a bone saw earlier as well, an item I've not seen in a long time. He's got 2 regeneration items as well, well, lifesteal items, I should say. Slumbering Husk to get that 4 to 5 HP from the burst of Hundor. He's one scary black feather, put it that way.
He really is, and Techno wants to go right now. Oh, or not. He was just baiting me like he was baiting G2, maybe.
Oh,
fourth
whoa,
lands.
hang on a second. Palmatora gets dragged in. That Crucible a little bit too late, but Techno on the backline once again. Fearsome Shade on 3 people. Gauntlet's going to get laid down. Keanu with a triple quibble. Techno's going to be the first to fall. G2, this could be their game. Yes, it is. Palmatora, the last one alive, and G2 just annihilates Fnatic in this such a close game. 26 minutes in. Only 1,000 gold between the two teams, and G2 have done it.
They have indeed, and Jaws, what a turnaround. Things were not looking good for G2 for the longest time, but when their composition really properly hit late game, it came online. Fnatic, it's a bit of a heartbreaker for them. They had a very strong game number 2. In addition to that, game number 1, and on top of that, they were able to really show some strength in the early and mid game of game number 3, but it just wasn't quite enough. G2, they've been making these interesting team compositions work for themselves today.
They really have. There goes the crystal. There goes the game and the series. G2. What a fantastic performance from them. And I want to see Hundor on this Celeste. He had a tough time dealing with Techno, but he really made it work in the late game. We're going to jump over to the desk because we need a breather.